Hello everyone, so I am back with the fifth video of the video series on class 9 science, the fundamental unit of life, and in this video we are going to learn in detail about some of the cell organelles like mitochondria, Golgi apparatus, plastids and vacuoles. So let's get started.
So let us see what is Golgi apparatus and what does it do. So this particular cell organelle was named after a scientist, Camillo Golgi, who first described it. So he was the first one to describe this cell organelle, and thereafter it was known as Golgi apparatus. So something which was described by Golgi. Interesting, right? So it is again a network of membrane-bound vesicles which are arranged parallel to each other in stacks called cisterns. So this is also a network of membrane-bound vesicles. So what are vesicles? Vesicles are, you can say, some sacs, some vessels containing something, right? So you can call them as vesicles. So it was a network of membrane-bound vesicles which are arranged parallel to each other in stacks, and those stacks are known as cisterns. You might be thinking, what is it? I'm not able to understand, right? Look at this figure. Then you will get a better understanding. So this is how a Golgi apparatus looks like. So if you see, they are arranged parallelly. So if you say this line and this line, they are arranged parallelly. So what is this line actually? It is a network of membrane-bound vesicles. So these are all vesicles. If you see this small vessel-like structure, you can see, right? So this is a transport vesicle. So similarly, everything inside this are small vesicles which are all connected to each other, and they give rise to a structure like this. And they are arranged in such a way that they are arranged in parallel stacks. So you can see these parallel stacks. So these parallel stacks are known as cisterns, right? Now they are generally located near nucleus in animal cells, okay? In plant cells, they are freely distributed, and in plant cells, Golgi apparatus is known as dictyosomes. Okay, so that means their appearance a little different in plant cells than in animal cells. So in animal cells, again, it is similar to endoplasmic reticulum. That means it will be located somewhere nearby to the nucleus. But in case of plant cells, it can be scattered in any part, and they are known as dictyosomes. So Golgi apparatus in plant cells are called dictyosomes. Correct? Okay, so let us have a look at Golgi apparatus in animal cells. So these are the Golgi vesicles or Golgi apparatus. See, here you can see. So these are all arranged in parallel stacks, right? In the middle, if you see, they are all parallel to each other. So this is Golgi apparatus, and it is located somewhere near to the nucleus. This blue line represents the nuclear membrane. So just outside the nucleus, you have the rough endoplasmic reticulum here. Then you have the smooth endoplasmic reticulum here, and you have the Golgi apparatus here. So all these things are located near to the nucleus. Now let us look at the Golgi apparatus in animal cells. In plant cells. So this is a typo error. It is not animal cells. It is a plant cell. So Golgi apparatus in a plant cell. Where is the Golgi apparatus here? So here if you see, this are the Golgi apparatus. So this is the Golgi apparatus, and these are the Golgi vesicles. So here the vesicles are arranged here and there. I mean, it is not on a specific place, right? So here we have a Golgi body, but it is not necessary that it will always be at a specific location and it will always be near to the nucleus. In plant bodies, it can be scattered like this also in the form of Golgi vesicles, right? Okay. So now let us look at the significance of Golgi apparatus. What is the purpose of the presence of a Golgi apparatus inside a cell? Materials manufactured in endoplasmic reticulum is dispatched to various parts inside or outside the cell through Golgi apparatus. Now first answer me, what are the materials that are manufactured in endoplasmic reticulum? What are these materials? Rough endoplasmic reticulum has ribosomes on its surface, and ribosomes manufacture proteins, right? What else is manufactured by endoplasmic reticulum? The smooth endoplasmic reticulum will manufacture lipids and fats. So that means these proteins and lipids they have to be dispatched to other parts of the cell also. So that is done by endoplasmic reticulum as well, because endoplasmic reticulum also acts as a mode of transport, but it is also done by the Golgi apparatus. So Golgi apparatus also helps to dispatch the materials which are produced in endoplasmic reticulum to various parts inside the cell or to the outside of the cell. So even it can take it outside the cell. It helps in storage of various cellular secretions, for example, enzymes, proteins, cellulose, etc. That means inside the cell, you have so many different components, you have so many different organs. So everybody is performing its own function. So somewhere if there is some secretion, some enzymes are produced, some proteins are produced, some cellulose is produced, it helps to store all of them, because all these things are needed by the cell for its survival, right? So there has to be some storage for them. For example, in our house also, there is, suppose today you want to, in order to prepare dinner, you just need 1 kg of rice to prepare dinner for your entire family. But still, it happens that we keep around 5 kgs of rice at home. That's because so that we have backup. We have the backup of storage, so that I will need tomorrow also the same thing, I have it at home. Similarly, inside the cell also, you should store things which are needed by the cell for its survival. So some of such things are enzymes, proteins and cellulose. Right? So Golgi apparatus helps in storing such cellular secretions. Synthesis of lysosomes. So Golgi apparatus helps in manufacturing the lysosomes. What are lysosomes? Lysosomes are another cell organelles which have their own specific function. So Golgi apparatus produces lysosomes. So that is again an importance of Golgi apparatus. Now you might be curious to know what does these lysosomes do. Right? So now in the next slide we will start talking about lysosomes. So I hope you are clear what are Golgi apparatus. These are again network of vesicles, and what are their significance? They help to store many things, and they also helps to dispatch things from endoplasmic reticulum to other parts inside the cell as well as outside the cell. Okay, so let us talk about lysosomes now. So what are lysosomes? Lysosomes are membrane-bound vesicles containing variety of digestive enzymes. So again, lysosomes are also membrane-bound vesicles. So they are also some vessel-like structure, and inside those vessels, you have a variety of digestive enzymes, right? So let us see what it actually does. Before that, let us see where are lysosomes. So these are like, here is the lysosome. So this is lysosome. So it is a vessel containing a variety of digestive enzymes. So now we will see it looks somewhat like this. It is surrounded by a membrane, and inside it has got so many digestive enzymes. So where is a lysosome located? In an animal cell. So it is here. It is somewhere located here. Right? A vessel-like structure. Again, in plant cell. Presence of lysosomes in plant cells is actually disputed. What do I mean by disputed? That means most of the people say, most of the scientists have told that lysosomes are not present inside a plant cell. The functions of a lysosome is performed by a vacuole in a plant cell. That is the opinion of many of the scientists. On the other hand, there are certain scientists who say that lysosomes do exist in plant cells. So we are not very sure whether they exist or not. But even if they don't exist, so many of the places you will see that whenever you look at the diagram of a plant cells in your textbooks or over the net, you will see that lysosomes are not labeled in most of the plant cells, right? So the purpose of a lysosome, whatever function a lysosome performs, that function is performed by a vacuole in a plant cell, right? Okay, now let us look at the significance of lysosome. What purpose does it actually solve? It digests waste materials and worn out organelles. That's what is the purpose, because it contains a variety of digestive enzymes. So these digestive enzymes helps to digest the materials which are not digested elsewhere in the cell. So it is capable of digesting any waste material or worn out organelles. Let us suppose if any of the cell organelles have been damaged. So it can digest that damaged cell organelles also. It provides defense against bacterial and viral infection because, as I said, it has got high variety of digestive enzymes, so it doesn't allow the body to cause indigestion, or it doesn't allow any kind of infection to spread. It is the waste disposal system of the cell. Very true, waste disposal system, because all waste materials and all waste organelles are digested by it. So it is known as the waste disposal system of the cell. So you can call it as the dustbin of the cell. During cell damage, lysosomes burst and the enzymes digest their own cell. Let us suppose if something happened and the cell got damaged, the entire cell got damaged. Under that situation, many a times the lysosomes burst out. So the membrane covering the lysosome, that membrane itself bursts out, and this lysosome is then digested by its own enzymes. So are you getting the point? Lysosomes burst and its own enzymes which are present inside it only will digest it. So that is why they are often known as the suicidal bags of the cell. Suicidal bags. Why suicidal bags? Because their death is digested by their own enzymes. So that is why they are known as the suicidal bags of the cell. What is suicide? Suicide means somebody causing his or her own death, right? So in case of lysosomes also, whenever there is some damage in the cell, the lysosome membrane bursts out, and due to the bursting of the lysosome membrane, the enzymes itself eats up the entire lysosome. The enzymes which are present in the lysosome, those enzymes only eat up the lysosome. Right? So that means your own thing is only eating you up. So that is why they are known as suicidal bags of the cell. They are known as the waste disposal system of the cell, as well as they are known as the suicidal bags of the cell. So that means lysosomes are of great significance because they have got a variety of enzymes. And where are lysosomes produced? Just now we saw in the previous slide that the Golgi apparatus produces the lysosomes, right? It helps in the synthesis of lysosomes. Now this function which is performed by lysosome in case of a plant cell is performed by a vacuole. We will now talk about the next cell organelle, that is mitochondria. So let us see what is mitochondria. These are rod-shaped organelles bounded by two membranes. So again, rod-like structures bounded by two membranes. So if you look at it, you get a picture like this. So this is the mitochondria. This is how a mitochondria looks like. So how does a mitochondria look like? So let us look at the structure of a mitochondria. It has an outer membrane and another inner membrane. So if you look at the figure, you can look at its outer membrane. So this red line represents the outer membrane of the mitochondria, which is smooth and porous. So this membrane is smooth. It has got no obstructions, right? So this is the outer membrane. Next we have another inner membrane which is deeply folded. So if you look at the inner membrane, this is the inner membrane. So if you look at this membrane, it is a folded structure. It is not that smooth. So it has got curves and turns, right? So this is a deeply folded inner membrane. Okay, what else does it have? These folds provide greater surface area. Now because of these folds, it will provide greater surface area to the structure to generate ATP. What is ATP? ATP is adenosine triphosphate. So these ATP molecules are the ones which are being used as energy. So these adenosine triphosphate molecules are nothing but energy. So energy is produced in the form of these ATP molecules, right? And this energy is produced by mitochondria. So that is the main function of mitochondria. So that is how the structure of mitochondria helps in its production of ATP molecules. Outer membrane is smooth but inner membrane is deeply folded. Because of these folds, it has got greater surface area, so it can generate greater number of ATP molecules. Now, after the inner membrane, it has got cristae. What are these cristae? The inner membrane is compartmentalized into various cristae. So, if you look here, these are the cristae. That is, the inner membrane are compartmentalized into various cristae. See, this is the inner membrane. So the inner membrane forms compartments like this. You can see this is one compartment, this is another compartment, this is another compartment. So these compartments are known as cristae because the second inner membrane has got deep folds. Therefore, these structures, these spaces between the inner membranes is known as the cristae, right? Then we have matrix. What is matrix? It is the ground substance or space enclosed by the inner membrane. So this region has got matrix. So this is matrix, that means this region, that means the region enclosed by the inner membrane. So these are the four basic things in the structure of mitochondria. First is the outer membrane, which is a smooth outermost covering. Next is inner membrane, which is deeply folded such that the folds give greater surface area so that it can generate greater number of ATP molecules. Now, because of these folds of the inner membrane, there are compartments which are created, and these compartments are known as cristae. Now, the area enclosed by the inner membrane is known as matrix. Right? Clear with the structure of mitochondria? Now let us try to locate mitochondria in animal cells. Where do we see mitochondria in animal cells? So here if you see, this is the mitochondria. So this is how the mitochondria looks like. Outer membrane, curved inner membrane, right? So this is the mitochondria. Now how does the mitochondria looks like in a plant cell? So in a plant cell you have mitochondria here. Again, it looks similar, right? Now, it is not necessary that one cell can have only one mitochondria. It can have multiple mitochondria also. For example, in this cell only, you have one mitochondria here. Again, you have another mitochondria here. So, you can have one or you can have many. So, let us look at the significance of mitochondria. It is known as the powerhouse of the cell. Why powerhouse? Because it generates energy in the form of ATP molecules. So energy is released in the form of adenosine triphosphate molecules. Now you must be wondering, what is this adenosine triphosphate? Please do not bother yourself with this. You will learn all these things in your chemistry and that too in your higher classes. So it is some molecule, adenosine triphosphate. It can synthesize its own proteins as they have their own DNA and ribosomes. Now if you have ribosomes, that means you can manufacture proteins because ribosomes are the site for protein synthesis, right? Now, since mitochondria has its own ribosome and own DNA, therefore they can synthesize their own proteins. So, mitochondria is not dependent on the proteins which are generated on the endoplasmic reticulum and then carried over by the Golgi apparatus. So, mitochondria is not dependent on anybody for proteins. It can synthesize its own proteins. So, mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. We will now talk about plastids. What are plastids? Organelles present only in plant cell. That is the most important point because we do not see plastids in animal cells. So, it is very, very important to make a note that plastids are present only in plant cells. There are two types of plastids. One is chromoplast and the other one is leucoplast. Okay, so this is the microscopic view of a plastid. I mean, under the microscope, it looks somewhat like this. Okay, we will talk about all those things. So broadly, there are two types, chromoplast and leucoplast. So let us talk about one by one in detail. So where do we see plastids in a plant cell? So first, let us locate plastids in a plant cell. So you can locate plastid here. So this chloroplast is a type of plastid. So these green colored structure is nothing but plastid. So we will talk about chloroplast in the next few slides. So let us first talk about the two types of plastids, that is leucoplast. First let us start with leucoplast. Now leucoplasts are the colorless plastids. So they do not have any colors. They help in storage of food like starch, oils and proteins. For example, plastids are present in plant cells. So there also you need as many organs as you have which can store things, the better it is, right? So this plastids helps to store food like starch, oils and proteins, right? So they are used as storage organs. Chromoplasts. What are chromoplasts? They are colored plastids. For example, now when you think of colored plastids, what all things come to your mind? I am right now talking about plant cells. So in plants, what are the things that are colored? When I talk of colored plastids, you can think of the green color of the leaf. You can think of the red color of the tomato. You can also think of the yellow color of the sunflower, right? So these colors are because of the presence of plastids, and these are because of the presence of colored plastids, right? That these things are of bright colors, right? Now chromoplasts with chlorophyll are known as chloroplasts. So chloroplast is a category, or it is a kind of chromoplast only, but which is green in color. And why is chloroplast green in color? Because it contains a pigment known as chlorophyll, right? So that means the leaves are green in color because they contain chloroplasts, and chloroplasts contain the pigment chlorophyll. Clear? So that means there are two types of plastids. One is chromoplast, one is leucoplast. Chromoplasts are the colored plastids. So what are the purpose of chromoplasts? They actually give color to the different parts of the plants, right? Chromoplasts which are green in color are called chloroplasts, and they are present in the leaves of the plants. On the other hand, leucoplasts are colorless plastids, but they help in storage of food items inside the plant, right? Let us now talk about the importance of chloroplasts, because chloroplasts is something because of which the leaves are green, and this green leaves have a very important role to play for the survival of plants. So chloroplasts contain a green pigment called chlorophyll, okay? They help in photosynthesis. What is photosynthesis? Photosynthesis is the process by which plants make their own food in presence of sunlight. Now, photosynthesis is possible only when there is sunlight and there is chlorophyll, both. So, photosynthesis is something which prepares food for plants. So, if photosynthesis doesn't happen, plant will not get its food, and therefore plants will not survive. So, chloroplasts are an extremely important thing for the survival of the plants. They are also known as the kitchen of the cell because they help in photosynthesis, and photosynthesis actually results in production of food. Okay, how does the structure of a chloroplast looks like? There are numerous membrane layers are embedded in a material. So many membrane layers, that means membrane bound layers are there which are embedded in a material. So these membrane layers are known as grana or granum. So Grana is the plural of granum. So what is granum? Granum means these membrane layers. So here you can see these are the different layers. It is like you take many saucers and keep one above the another. So what happens? Many layers are arranged in a column, right? So similar is the scenario here. So many layers are arranged one after another, and then they are embedded in a material. So the material on which they are embedded, that is known as stroma, and each of these layers is known as granum. So this is grana and this is stroma. Stroma is the material. This dark green colored material on which it is embedded, that is called stroma. So let us suppose this is the stroma, and grana is something like this. So one above another, and then they are embedded in a material, right? So chloroplast is made up of grana and stroma. So grana are the membrane layers, and grana are the ones which contain chlorophyll. So these layers actually contain chlorophyll. Whereas stroma is a homogeneous mixture, it is the ground material. It contains photosynthetic enzymes and starch grains. Right? So both of them together helps in the process of photosynthesis, because one contains chlorophyll, the other one contains the photosynthetic enzymes and starch grains. Now let us quickly look at the significance of plastids. They help in photosynthesis, absolutely true. They also help in storage of plant food, which is extremely necessary again. They have their own DNA and ribosomes, so they can also make their own proteins. So this is a similarity of plastids with whom? With mitochondria. Even the same thing is true for mitochondria. Mitochondria also has its own DNA and ribosomes, therefore they are not dependent on others for proteins. They can make their own proteins, right? So that is how plastids are significant to plant cells. Let's now talk about the last organelle of this lesson, that is vacuoles. So what are vacuoles? Vacuoles are fluid-filled membrane-bounded sacs. Again, these are like vessels which are filled with some fluid and surrounded by a membrane. right? So this is how a vacuole looks like in a plant cell. So you can see a big structure, right? Quite big structure, which is surrounded by a membrane, and this is filled with a fluid. So let us have a look at the vacuoles in animal cells. So vacuoles are small sized in animal cells when compared to the plant cells. Not all animal cells have vacuoles. There are very few animal cells which actually have vacuoles. Some of the examples are amoeba. The first example which I have displayed here is amoeba. So in amoeba you have this vacuole, the food vacuole. Similarly, you have another vacuole, that is contractile vacuole. So you can have multiple vacuoles. You can have more than one vacuole, but the size of each of the vacuole is small. So the food vacuole will help in intake of food to intake the food material. Similarly, the contractile vacuole will help in the contraction. Similarly, another example is a ciliate. Ciliate, what is a ciliate? The protozoa which has got this hair-like structures called cilia throughout its body, right? So here also they have got a digestive vacuole which helps in digestion. Again, it has got another contractile vacuole which helps in movement, right? So the different types of vacuole will have its different function, but in animal cells it is generally seen that their size is small. On the other hand, in plant cells, the vacuoles are large size. That's because vacuoles are mainly used to store water, to store a fluid, right? So because of that storage, vacuoles are generally large in size. And the membrane covering the vacuole is known as tonoplast. So here you can see how big a vacuole is. So this is the vacuole. So this blue colored structure is the vacuole, and the light blue colored covering or the membrane of the vacuole is known as tonoplast, right? Okay. What is the significance of vacuole? What purpose does it solve? In plant cells, it contains cell sap and therefore provides rigidity to the cell. So it makes the plant cell quite rigid. So you can see that there are several things which provides rigidity to the plant cell. For example, you have the cell wall, which is again an additional feature of plant cell, and that also provides rigidity to the plant cell. Similarly, these vacuoles which contain a fluid, that fluid is known as cell sap. So because of the presence of this fluid, it provides rigidity to the plant cell. It also helps in the storage of amino acids, sugars and proteins. As I mentioned before also, the more and more organs you have to store things, the better it is. So again, this is another organ which helps in storage of amino acids, sugars and proteins. Now, what is its purpose in animal cells? Maintenance of water balance. For example, expels excess water or wastes in protozoa. Now, the example which I took in the previous slide, right, the ciliate, that is a kind of protozoa. So in those cases, vacuoles maintains water balance. When there is too much of water inside the cell, vacuole expels out some water. Similarly, when there is shortage of water, it can store some water, right? So it helps to maintain the water balance. It also helps in ingestion of nutrients. That means it helps in intake of food. The food, for example, the food vacuole in amoeba. You looked at the structure of amoeba in one of the previous slides, right? So there you had a food vacuole. So that vacuole actually helps in the intake of nutrients. So that's what I mentioned. Depending upon its function, there are many different types of vacuoles. Food vacuole, which helps in intake of food. Similarly, you have contractile vacuole, right? Similarly, you have digestive vacuole, which helps in the digestion. So depending upon its function, the vacuoles have got many different names. But mostly it is more common in plant cells. It is bigger in size in plant cells, more in number, and it also provides rigidity to plant cells. In plant cells, vacuole also perform another function. That is the function which is performed by lysosomes in animal cells. As I mentioned before, that the presence of lysosomes in plant cells is quite disputed. Many people say that lysosomes are not present in plant cells. So the function of lysosomes, that it used to digest the waste products. So that is also performed by vacuoles to some extent in plant cells. So what all did we study in this lesson? We talked about what is a cell. We talked about the cell theory. We talked about the basic structure of the cell, that is, we talked about the nucleus, plasma membrane, cell wall and cytoplasm. Thereafter, we spoke about the important cell organelles. So for now, it is important that you understand each of them. You just know where each of them are present. You know their basic function and basic structure. So knowing all this, let us have a quick comparison between a plant cell and an animal cell. A plant cell, it is generally larger in size. Animal cell, comparatively smaller in size. In a plant cell, cell wall is present. Animal cell wall is absent. Quite obvious, right? As I mentioned before also. Vacuoles in plant cells are big and lesser in number, whereas in case of animal cells, vacuoles are many and small in number. And another important thing to note here is that not necessarily all animal cells have a vacuole. So it is not necessary that every animal cell will have a vacuole. Plastids are present in plant cell, but they are not present in animal cells. There is one exception to it, however, that is euglena. So euglena is again belongs to the class protozoa who have got plastids. But normally all other animal cells do not have plastids. In plant cells, we have simpler distributed Golgi apparatus called dictyosomes. So Golgi apparatus are called dictyosomes and it is scattered everywhere. In animal cells, they are known as Golgi apparatus and it is a single complex prominent structure. So it is just present in at just one place, which is surrounded by a membrane. It is not distributed here and there. Whereas in case of a plant cell, the Golgi vesicles are distributed all over. Right? So with this, I will end up this lesson, and I would also advise you to go through the PPT properly, understand things, because as far as biology is concerned, there is not much numericals to solve, but there is more of understanding and there are certain terms which you need to remember. Wherever possible, I'll keep giving you memory tips, but at certain places you actually need to remember the names, right? So but still my advice would be to understand things so that you have lesser things to memorize, right? I hope this lesson helps. So see you all in the next lesson.
I hope you found the video useful, and I also hope that you found the entire video series on Class 9 Science, the fundamental unit of life, useful. If you have any suggestions, any feedback, do let us know in the comment section. Feel free to share our videos if you like them. So I will meet you all very soon with a new video series. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.